Did Renée Zellweger just confirm that one of the strangest Texas Chainsaw movies might have been shot completely off the books? What's going on, everybody? I'm Travis, and this is The Final Cut, your daily pulse in horror. It is Monday, March 30th, and we're starting with a story that honestly sounds more chaotic than the movie itself. Let's get into it. Renée Zellweger recently looked back on Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation and didn't exactly hold back. Her words? I'm sure none of it was legal. And honestly, that checks out. She described a production where the entire cast and crew were basically living out of a Winnebago, doing makeup in the front, hair in the middle, and storing wardrobe in the back behind a curtain next to the bathroom. That's not filmmaking in the traditional sense, that's survival. And yeah, the movie itself has always been one of the weirdest entries in the franchise. But hearing how it was made actually explains a lot of that energy. Because a lot of horror's identity didn't come from polished studio systems. It came from people just figuring it out, sometimes with no money, no structure, and apparently no permits. That kind of chaos can break a movie, but sometimes it gives it personality. So let me ask you, do you have more love for messy, scrappy horror movies that swing big, even when they miss? Let me know your answers in the comments ahead. Quick shout out to Fanatical and Grub for sponsoring today's episode. Fanatical Spring Sale is live right now with bundles ending soon, plus new pre-orders like Pragmata and Darwin's Paradox. And over at Grub, March Movie Madness is wrapping up with new pre-orders like Bride on 4K Steelbook and They Will Kill You, now available across formats for pre-order. Hit the links in the description, support the sponsors, and let them know HMU sent you. Wrestling and horror crossing paths again, and at this point, it just feels natural. Pro wrestler Vinny Pacifico is stepping into the genre with Mr. Reset and the Society of Turnbuckle and Bone, a project pulling from wrestling, anime, and psychological thriller elements. And what makes this interesting is that it's not just surface level crossover. Pacifico says the film is partly based on real experiences early in his career, dealing with bullying, exploitation, and the darker side of trying to break into that world. He's playing himself, just pushed to the extreme. In his words, a Vinny times 10. That's the kind of concept that can either feel real or fall apart fast if it leans too gimmicky. But if it actually taps into what performance culture does to people behind the scenes, there's something there. So let me ask you, why do you think horror and wrestling fans overlap so naturally? Let me know your answers in the comments ahead. Finally, one of the more interesting concepts I've heard in a minute, a horror short called White Meat Appetizer, where the zombies only eat white people. Yep, that's what I said. The film comes from David Dillon Thomas and follows three formerly enslaved people rising from Washington Square in Philadelphia and attacking an old city coffee shop, all while a young black influencer live streams everything. And what makes this hit isn't just the concept, it's the foundation behind it. Thomas is pulling from the original roots of zombie mythology tied to enslavement, labor, and control, not just modern flesh-eating versions. So this isn't just satire for shock value, it's grounded in something real, and that's why it lands. Because when horror is intentional like that, it doesn't just entertain, it sticks. So here's the question. Do you think horror works best when it's direct and political, or more coded and metaphorical? Let me know your answers in the comments ahead. Today's take, here's what ties all of this together. Horror feels the most alive when it has something to prove. When it's not clean, not overmanaged, not trying to check every box. Whether it's a chaotic shoot that probably shouldn't have worked, a wrestling story built on real pressure and exploitation, or a zombie concept that actually has something to say. That's when horror has weight. That's when it has teeth. On today's Spotify poll, what kind of horror are you in the mood for right now? DIY cult chaos, wrestling horror, that's what I'm down. Political, social horror, or big studio genre movies. And don't forget, if you got a horror tip, trailer, or story we should be covering, DM the socials at HMUNCUT. We might feature it on the show. That's today's episode of The Final Cut, your daily pulse in horror. Hopefully you guys like the little switch around of the format. We're tweaking it. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, make sure to follow so you don't miss the next episode. I'm Travis, and as always, keep the lights on.